It'll be helpful. I know it's like nails on a chalkboard to have to hear yourself back over, but it'll definitely be helpful down the road. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start off. Have you had an opportunity to log into your website at all?
Have not, no.
That's totally okay. There's going to be some homework items from today, and the sooner you can do the homework items that we go over today, the better off you are, because they're going to be fresh in your mind. And also I want you to just try maybe after our call to log in and just make sure you're able to log in, you don't have any troubles, so that way you know how to do all that kind of, you can know how to get in there and you're not stuck. So once you've logged in, this is your dashboard page, your home page. Anytime you want to come back to this page, you can just use the home icon up here in the top left-hand corner. This page is really just a snapshot of all the information that we have in the system. So it's a quick glimpse of the different moving pieces. We can see way more detail on any of these items that we're about to review. You'll notice up here in the top left-hand corner, we have our current membership rosters. This is going to list all of those member types that we discussed along the left-hand side, and then how many members are in each of those different member types. One thing that I want to point out here is we've got the sustaining members. The sustaining members is the member type that holds the company.
Yep.
The sustaining contacts are the individuals that are linked to the company. This seems a little weird to me, these numbers. It should really be about half and half. So we might want to take a peek at that and make sure everything came over the way it was supposed to. So we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. We'll be able to actually watch your members move from their active status to gray status to lapse status as they go through their membership period. So if your member is active, that means that they're up to date, they haven't passed their expiration date yet, they are up to date on their dues. If they fall into a gray status, at that point, that means that they're in that little leeway period. I think we either decided, I think 7 days is what we decided for that, or was it 7 months?
Yeah, I think it was July.
So it was 7 months, perfect.
Yeah.
I had just written the number 7, didn't tell me anything. And then, so they'll be in that grace period until then. And then if they still haven't paid their dues, that's when they're going to go into this lapse status. You'll still see them in their member type. You're not going to lose any information on them. But at that time, they won't be able to log into the system, and they won't be able to take advantage of any of those member type, any member type pricing, any of the social community, any member type pricing. To them, it feels like they've been kicked out of the system until they pay their dues.
Sure.
Over
now,
here on the right.
If they wanted to pay, they would just have access to the main page where they can download the form and mail it in if they wanted to, or email through the site.
Yeah, in all of the renewal notifications that you sent me and that I set up, they will also receive those lapse notifications from any invoice they receive, or I'm sorry, from any notification they receive. They're going to have an attached invoice. All they have to do is click it and hit pay. And that's all they have to do.
Okay.
Okay. This new members in the last 90 days dashboard over here on the right-hand side, this is also just going to show you the numbers of the members that have joined in the last 90 days, so you can quickly and frequently email them, reiterating the membership benefits they're gaining by being a part of your association. We have our event dashboards. These are just kind of giving you a glimpse of your most recent events or your upcoming events. Each dashboard will show you up to 3, the name, the date that the event occurred or the date that it will occur, and how many people attended or how many people have registered. So just a glimpse of what's going on with your events. And lastly, down here at the bottom, we have 2 dashboards on financials. Once again, we can look into way more detail on these, but we've got your aged receivables. Aged receivables is going to show you how much money, whether your money is current or by how many days it's past due. So down here along the bottom, current, you'll have a big bar that'll populate for any current invoices, 1 to 30 days past due, 31 to 60 days past due, 61 to 90, and 91 plus. And then your sales over time chart is just going to show you how much money's brought in per month per revenue account. So I've got your different revenue accounts that you gave me in here. Maybe we just wanted to see the vendor appreciation. We could apply that filter and we'll see exactly how much money came in for that particular revenue account.
So can I ask you, I'm not sure if we talked at length about this or not. I assume that's what you mean. So for each of the events that we charge for, including dues, that's a separate, so if I get a check that's for a golf event, it's going to go into that golf receivable. So it's tracked, everything is tracked separately. Is that true?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of your money is going to go into those different buckets, and there's ways that we can do that, and I'll make sure I show you how as we go through our different trainings.
Other than tracking those payments into those buckets, is there another financial piece to it? So for instance, I have an Excel sheet that's a running tally of every single thing that comes in and goes out. Is there something that does that, or is this just payments for invoices that went out?
I see what you're saying. We're going to talk about the financial piece in just a minute. So let me show you that, and I think I'm going to answer your question when we go through that.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump. There's one thing I want to talk about before we get to that, and that is going to be back up at the top here. You're going to have a settings tab and a submenu that's called account settings. You will really not need to access this account settings submenu too often. The most useful thing that this is going to be for is your account information up here in the top left-hand corner. Once you've graduated from the onboarding process, you're going to start calling into the help team. Anytime you call the help team, they're going to ask you for your account number, which is always in this area. So you don't have to memorize it or write it down. You'll always be able to find it right here. This is also a great place to keep track of how many custom profiles you've used versus prospective profiles. I can get this down to under 300 because you have 15 honorary and retired members that don't pay dues. I'll just move them to prospects, and I gave them that custom attribute that we talked about last time. We'll talk more about that in just a moment as well. But that custom attribute, we talked about naming it prospect type. So if I went into a retired or honorary member's profile, yes, they're listed as a prospect, but there is an additional attribute that will tell you what type of prospect they are. And right now, those options would either be honorary or retired.
Okay. The other thing that I noticed in looking at the database is there are a number of, not many, but a few that don't have emails. So I either have to eliminate them if we're not going to email them, or print something out, or find if they have an email. There might be, I don't know if you noticed, there were, I don't know, maybe 5 accounts or so that don't have them.
Yeah, I did. And the reason I noticed is because I had created usernames for all of your members. I can't talk today. And I typically use the email address as the username. So I didn't have usernames for, I think there were like 15 tops. That even seemed a little hefty. And I just made their last names, I think, their username. I just jumped to doing that.
Some of them were probably in the honorary bunch, and then the few were members, yeah.
I would definitely reach out if they're with a company. I would maybe reach out to the company and see if they have an email on file, or you can just use the company's email or something like that. For individuals, I would definitely see if you can track down that info, because otherwise they're not going to be able to receive dues renewals or anything like that, right? So it's important to have those email addresses. So awesome. Some other things that we can take a look at in here: time zone, membership year, member number is turned on. We can hide this from your members though, and I'll show you how to do that. This is really just a system attribute I like to use. You are not using QuickBooks, so I have this toggled off. When you send emails from member clicks, your members will have the ability to reply to those emails. Anytime they reply to an email, it'll go to this info at email address. And then the last item, I just have billing contact info for member clicks to have on file up here in the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
Any questions on that account settings info?
Refresh my memory. Does this system also serve as where I am checking people's emails? Look, for instance, I have a GoDaddy account where I get the emails from now. So for people replying to this, are we still using GoDaddy, or am I coming back through this system to track emails?
It's still going to be coming through GoDaddy. You can send emails from member clicks, but when they reply, it's going to be going through GoDaddy. Now, you do have a message reporting center. So when you send a welcome email to all 309 of your members, you can actually use the message reporting center to determine who opens those emails, if the email's bounced, if somebody's unsubscribed. You can kind of just run reports on that. Any URLs, links that are in your email, you can track to see how many unique clicks occurred for each link.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
So if I'm sending out a flyer for golf, it goes through here. If they reply to it, it comes back through GoDaddy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to the financials. So I'm just going to be going to the financial tab and invoices. Now, it's a little bit hard to imagine how invoices and the financials will work without actually having some invoices in the system. So I am going to bring up our MemberClicks test site for just a moment so that we can actually see what your invoices will look like. So I'm just going to go to financial and invoices once again. So in your system, it looks like this right now because we don't have any. We go back to MemberClicks. Here we are, but we do have some invoices created. Your invoice list, or this is the invoice list, which is where you come to by default, but if you ever needed to come back to this page, like if you're playing around in these other icons, this first icon, invoice list, will bring you right here. Your invoices will always be listed by the invoice number, the type of invoice, first name, last name, company name, status, whether it's open, paid, voided, partially paid, total amount, the due date, and you can either view or void.
So when we send out the dues, this area here is going to populate with those 250 invoices.
Correct.
All individual or under company. Okay.
Correct. Exactly. There are going to be tons of invoices in here over time because this is keeping track of all of your invoices ever created in your system. So we've made a couple of different ways for you to track invoicing or search invoicing. The first is using the search bar up here in the top right-hand corner where you can search by first name, last name, company name, or invoice number. I'm going to search for my name. Here are all the invoices that I have in MemberClicks right now. I can even further search. Maybe I only care about seeing, I'm going to filter by the invoice type, my renewal invoices. Renewals are for dues renewals. Form would be any of your forms like event registrations, but it'll also hold membership applications because if somebody registers to become a new member, they're taking a form to do that. Credit memos, ad hocs are just a miscellaneous one-off invoice that you would have created for a one-off reason, just somebody decided to buy a leftover t-shirt or something. I'm going to just choose renewals and I'm going to apply my filter. And let's say I only care, I'm going to even further reduce how many invoices we're looking at by choosing the status of the invoice. And I only care to see my open invoices. So now we've narrowed it down to just the one. Once you have found the invoice that you're looking for your particular member, you can tag it. You can take a couple of different actions to it. For example, you can email this tagged invoice. So maybe I called you up and I said, hey, I really can't find my invoice. Can you just resend it to me really quickly? You can say, sure, Adrian, yeah, hold on. Email tagged invoice. And I'll say, oh, and not only does it need to come to me, but it also needs to go to my boss because my boss said that I can expense it with the company. then you could just send that one invoice and it would go to both email addresses. Make sense?
Yep.
And then you can also export this invoice, which would allow you to print it off. So if somebody needs to receive this snail mail, you can just print off the invoices and send a snail mail.
Okay.
Now let's go ahead and look at this invoice. To view an invoice, we want to select the invoice number. And this is exactly what your invoices will look like in your system. Of course, it'll be your logo in the top right-hand corner and your association information over here in the top left-hand corner. Everything else is pretty consistent though. You can customize the notes field that shows up on your invoice. I'm going to show you how you can do that in just a moment. I'm also going to show you, well, and then one other thing I wanted to point out is while these notes are external, you can add notes down here at the bottom of the invoice, and these are internal. So I could say voided invoice on 2/15 because member is no longer being a part, something like, is no longer a member or something like that.
Yep.
And we could save that comment and it would tell you exactly when the comment is made. And we can always remove it, but these are internal, only admin would see these.
Can I ask you the portions that you have in shaded gray there? Are you able to make these a little more visually pleasing with some color?
That's a good question. And unfortunately, right now, the answer is no. There are some parts of our product that are shared code. So if I changed that gray shading on this invoice to something a little bit prettier, it would update across the board for all of our associations.
Okay.
So it kind of has to stick with being a neutral color.
Okay.
But we can stick your logo up here at the top.
Sure.
A couple other things that I can point out. Downloading invoices, we could download it from the invoice list screen, but we can also download your invoice directly from the invoice by selecting download invoice. We can void the invoice, create a credit invoice, and lastly, and most importantly, pay the invoice. Anytime you receive a check, or maybe I called you up and said, hey, can I just give you payment over the phone? You can always say, yes, absolutely. Hold on one second. You find my invoice, select pay invoice. You can either enter in my credit card information, or you can select an offline payment. Determine what type of offline payment I've created. Throw in my check number or whatever reference number you need to use, the date received, and submit the offline payment. At that time, the invoice will reflect as paid in the system.
Okay.
Any
and
questions
then
on
that invoice was already flagged as, say, dues. So then that goes into the financial receivables under dues.
Exactly.
It knows where it lives to begin with. Okay.
Exactly. In fact, I can go ahead and show you kind of what you're talking about. If I go to financial, we've been looking at invoices. If we go to transactions, this is where you can really narrow down the transaction report that you're looking for between maybe the 1st of January to the 31st of January. If you do this monthly, weekly, depending on the cadence at which you pull a transaction report, you can filter this by revenue account. So these would be all your revenue accounts. The transaction type, this will house the sale and the payment. So it'll have both sides of your T-chart, because ideally you want a transaction report to equal 0, right? The transaction status, payment type, and you can also filter by credit card type. Once you've pulled the report that you want to look at, or once you have the report that you want to export, you can use these buttons down here at the bottom to export to a CSV, which is what you'd be using.
Okay.
So it also is going to show you the date that that transaction occurred, the description, the amount, the payment method, the check number or that reference number that you used if it was an offline payment. And then lastly, the revenue account that money went into. You can filter by revenue account as well. So if it's membership dues, annual conference, it'll tell you exactly where that money went into. Did that answer some of those questions that you were having?
Sure. There is no expense account then to offset the revenue account.
Correct, because you would never push money out of MemberClicks. You're never going to pay anything. It's only income accounts.
Okay, so there's no tracking mechanism. Let's say I go and buy stamps, and just to have my books even off and deplete from the bottom line, there's no portion in here that will allow me to just track the expenses along with these receivables.
Correct. It would only be income.
Okay.
I'm going to jump back to that invoice list for a second. And I'm going to start working my way through these additional icons. Before I do so, any other questions on what we've covered so far?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So the next icon is called invoice templates. Invoice templates have to do with the different notifications that will go out from the system, letting your members know either that they need to pay an open invoice or that they did pay an open invoice, so like a payment confirmation. So you gave me those dues renewals. I'm sorry, you gave me, the dues renewal notifications. You gave me those, and I put them in the system. But because renewals usually makes up a large sum of the money that your association brings, dues renewals are like on its own island. Dues renewal notifications, we've got 12 notifications we can send out, and they are literally specific only to dues renewals. So invoice templates are going to be notifications that can go out from the system in regards to any other type of invoice that the system creates. We can only send up to 4 notifications for these, not 12. 12, we've saved all 12 of those for just dues renewals. These can hold up to 4. So for example, I would say, maybe I registered for an event through a form. You're going to end up telling that form, okay, you're using the events invoice template. So I can create that invoice template called events. And you would determine the net due date of that invoice template. 30 days is pretty typical. The footer information of this template is the notes section that was on the invoice. And then this is where you can turn on the different notifications that you would like to use and edit the emails, which would be the verbiage that goes out with those notifications. We've got some text already in here for you. If I'm being totally honest, it looks a little spammy to me, so I would customize these a little bit. So this is like your first homework item from today's training. Is I would begin by making a list of all the different types of invoices that MemberClicks will create for you. I'd make a list of those and then create an invoice template with custom verbiage for the different notifications you can set up per invoice template. Does that make sense?
Yep. So
Cool.
You're going to help me make 4 invoice templates, which is not including the dues template.
Right. You're actually going to take a stab at creating, so you have 4 invoice templates that you want to create?
I don't know. Is that what you're saying?
No, I want you to make a list of all the different types of invoices MemberClicks is going to create for you. Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Well, we only do a few things. So dues is its own thing. We have a vendor appreciation day. Those tickets are typically $50. And then we have a golf event. So we only have a few events that you actually have to pay for in addition to your dues. So our meetings throughout the year are covered. So we have golf and we have vendor appreciation.
Okay, so I went ahead and just created these for you. So all you need to do from here is I just want you to come into each of these. Don't worry about the default. This is for renewals. Don't worry about this, because remember, the notifications are coming out from that island somewhere else in the system for dues renewals. So, but I still have to have an invoice template. So that's for this. We don't need notifications. Those are coming from somewhere else. But you've got events, golf, new members will need an invoice template, and vendor appreciation day. I just want you to go into each of these 4, select edit, choose your due date. If you want notes information to show up on the form, notes go here. And then I want you to turn on the different notifications that you want to use. So you would toggle on whatever notifications need to be used, and you need to edit the email. So put in something a little bit more personalized, not so much that, like what I see a lot of times is my member comes in here and they say, thank you for attending the 2018 golf tournament. You don't want to say that because that means every year you're going to have to come in here and update those.
Yes. Yeah.
This is kind of a make them now and then leave it and never really have to touch them again unless you have a new event or a new something, new type of invoice you're creating and you just have to create a new one. You want to make these a little bit generic so you can make them and then not really ever think about it again.
So this template is the email that is going to send out the original invoice for that event.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there a price point in there? How does that work?
So the price point is going to come, the price point is going to come from a form, which we're going to talk about when we get to the forms training. This doesn't have anything to do with payment or form or technically not even the invoice. It's literally just emails going out saying, hey, make sure you pay this invoice.
Okay.
So when we get to the forms training, I'm going to show you where the two connect with one another.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yep.
Cool. All right. The second homework item that I want you to do in here for financials is this invoice templates. Invoice settings. When we click on the invoice settings, all I want you to do is put in your logo up here. This is the logo that will appear in the top right-hand corner of your invoicing. And then down here, your organization information is your organization information that will appear on the top left-hand corner of your invoice. Make sense? That one's pretty easy.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Then we have your revenue accounts is the fourth icon. This is just where I added your different revenue accounts into. If you wanted to create an additional revenue account, this is really, really simple. All you need to do is select Add New Revenue Account. Name your revenue account. Description is not required. If it's for dues, you turn on dues. If it's not, you leave dues turned off. And then at that point, you would hit save. And that's how you create your different revenue accounts.
Okay.
The last item that we have here are your payment processor. So this is where I've just added in your Moolah payment processor. Once, did you talk to her? Weren't you I think you were going to talk with her.
I haven't yet.
Okay. Once you've talked with her, whether you decide to use Moolah or if we need to add authorized.net, then that will reflect in here and it'll hold your API login and your transaction key. And that's all we have to do to make your payment processor communicate with MemberClicks.
Did you say that you had another option other than Moolah?
Yeah, so it's authorized.net. We talked a little bit, I think, about that and how Moolah is like our preferred partner, and you get a $600 discount in MemberClicks if you use Moolah. If you choose to not use Moolah, you do not get the $600 discount. What I like about Moolah in comparison to authorized.net is we have a representative in our office who works for Moolah. So if something funky happened and you needed to get on the phone with somebody, I could walk over to her desk and I could say, hey, Hart, I need you to talk to a client of mine. This is really important. It's an emergency. Whereas if something happened with authorized.net, I can't have any communication with them. That it's kind of like you end up playing the middleman, which has never been an issue except for once, which just happened to come up recently. And it was just annoying to have to communicate through my client to authorized.net, but it's totally doable and there's usually no problems.
And you had said that there's no way to bill the vendor who's using Moolah instead of the association for the cost.
Correct. You can't, like for the payment processing fees, there's no way to make them pay for that. Sometimes what happens is if the vendor, I have some clients who have member types that pay like $30,000 in dues. It costs them so much money to process that credit card because it's like 3% or something like that. 3% of 30,000, that's a lot of money. So, anyways, on $100 is $3, it's fine, but on 30,000 is a lot of money. So what they'll do is only accept checks. They'll only do an offline payment instead of allowing them to pay with a credit card. Otherwise, I've seen some memberships that have added a field, like for a form registration, we're tagging on a $3 processing fee, credit card processing fee, and it's just like an additional field that we can put on the form, or they'll just inflate their prices to reflect that. Does that make sense?
So if they were, let's say for the 450, we could say we could have a place where they were actually paying the difference. So 450 times roughly 3%. Oh. You said there was a field that they could check where they're paying the processing fee? Is that?
Well, it's basically just adding a field to the form, and it would say, like, I agree to the additional $3 processing fee, and it'll just add an additional line item to the invoice that says $3 processing fee. The only thing that stinks about that is if somebody chose to pay with check, they don't have a choice to choose payment processing fee, yes or no. It's pretty much required. I mean, you could make it so that somebody could choose yes or no. You could make it not required, but then if somebody's actually paying with a credit card, you're totally leaving it up to them to be honest, and usually people aren't honest. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean like they wouldn't have to check it, but they could still pay by credit card, but they wouldn't be paying the fee.
Right. So we'd want to make it required, but making it required means that if they chose to submit a check, they don't have a way to bypass not checking it.
Okay. I think we're going to skip it for now because I don't understand it completely. And it's, for the $14.50, it's $13.50 times 60 members. That's $800 plus another $3 per. For the others, it's another $1,000 or so that we weren't anticipating. So,
what were you using as your payment processor before?
We're not. It's just checks.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So this is well, actually, the municipalities, which is 100 people or so. The only people that would really be doing this are the $450 members. They're the vendors. The municipalities can't pay by a credit card. It's not legal. So they'd be paying by check no matter what. So I'm only looking at, say, however many 65 members paying $450 times, say, $450 times 3%, $13.50 times 65. It's about $900 that we would be absorbing to allow 65 members to pay via credit card. Some may not. The others can't. So it's just do we want to absorb that or don't we? It's a lot out of the gate for now, I guess. But I would like to do it. That never came up with Spence when we were going through this, and we didn't ask, and he didn't offer, and no one thought of it. And then that's why when we were on the conversation with you, it's like, it's how much? Like, yeah, slipped everybody's mind. Like, wow, there's another fee for that. Just never even thought of it. So.
And we can totally keep it. Yeah, we can totally keep it offline payments only with checks, and it's still going to make everything significantly easier. It's just as I showed you a moment ago. It's really easy to find the invoice you're looking for, hit pay invoice, and enter in the check info. And I mean, if that save you $1,000+, heck, we can totally start off that way. And you may call me in a year and say, Adrienne, this is a pain in my butt. I would rather just spend the money. Or, I calculated it's really not going to be that bad. Our membership's big enough at this point. I'm not worried about it. We can always add it on at a later time.
So for now, we're not there.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We can just leave it on.
Oh my God, it's another $1,000 I'm going to have to argue about to get this off the ground, and I'm just not ready to go there. So.
I'm going to mention this to you, and I don't know if I should, but I'm going to. And the reason I know this is I have a client who works for an organization. She couldn't get approved for a payment processor due to her line of work that her association is in. And so because of that, she had already told her membership base, and you might have already told your membership base this, or maybe you haven't communicated anything, but that's why I'm bringing this up. She told everybody, you can pay your dues online. And then when she couldn't get approved for a payment processor, she couldn't offer that. So what we did is at the end of every form and in every notification that goes out, she has a link to a business PayPal account. And they can click on that and pay through the PayPal account. And then when she sees the money come through her PayPal account, she'll go back into MemberClicks, and she still has to manually mark the invoice as paid, an offline payment, and she'll use the PayPal confirmation number as the reference number. That is working really well for her. She was a little bit in a corner. She didn't have a choice. The reason I'm mentioning that to you is because I don't think that PayPal has any type of monthly fees or transaction fees. You'd have to look into it, but that would be an option. There would still be manual work, just like putting in checks. But if this is something, your members paying online that you think could be really beneficial, that could be a route you could take.
Okay. So that at least allows them to do it, but I still manually have to play around with it, which isn't the end of the world. I still got to deal with it one way or the other. So
yeah.
Okay. So, thank you.
Something you can think about as well. Yeah. And if that felt confusing or like weird, don't even put your brain on it, but just having your back and kind of letting you know that that's something I've seen and it's working. So
okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. Golly, I only have like 8 minutes left. Any questions on any of these financial pieces?
I don't think so for now.
Okay. Let's look at your members for a second. I've got 2 other homework items, but I don't want to get into them right now because I don't think I'd have enough time to get through them. So I want to go ahead and I want to look at your members. I want to see where they are in your database. I can do that in a couple of ways. Let's start off by using the search bar up here in the top right-hand corner. I can type in 3 letters, and it's automatically going to search your entire database for those 3 letters, whether it's a first name, a last name, an organization name, or an email address. So you'll notice it's highlighted in the last name, the email address, wherever else we see it. When we find the profile that we were looking for, we can select that profile. And this shows us that this is an individual's profile that we're looking at right now. These profiles are broken up into 3 very specific types of attributes. We have 3 different types of attributes in our system. An attribute, let's back up for a second. An attribute is just a piece of information that we're using to describe your members. So my name is Adrienne, my name being an attribute of who I am. Everything up here in the top left-hand corner, these are all what we call built-in attributes. And I think we talked about this, but I'll give you my normal spiel. A built-in attribute is a piece of information that we know you collect on your members because all 1,800 plus of our associations collected on their members. And so we just build it into the system. Things like first name, last name, organization name, email address, phone number, physical address. Then we have system attributes. Over here in the right-hand corner, system attributes are pieces of information the system uses to keep track of your members, whether that's their membership period or how much they owe in dues. Things like expiration date, last renewal date, join date, member status, member type, member number, and so on. Down at the bottom here, we have a summary of both built-in attributes and custom attributes. This is where I added that prospect type attribute, and then we've got title. Their title is associate. In the middle of this profile, if they are linked to a company, we have their company, kind of like a little summary of their company information. I can even click on the CDM Smith View Profile link, and it takes me into the company's profile, where it shows me that they have one linked individual. If I wanted to view the linked individuals for the CDM Smith profile, there's a linked profiles tab in their organization profile, and it'll allow me to see who that linked individual is. In this case, it's Ian Mead, and it shows me he is the key contact. If Ian Mead left and you needed to replace him, you could unlink him and delete him, and you could add a new linked profile. I'm going to go ahead and click back on his name. Any questions so far?
You had said he is an associate, but he's sustaining. So 2 member types came up there. Oh, that's his title.
Exactly. His title is associate.
Like you call the $100 members associate member. Okay, forget it. That's his title.
I can see how that'd be confusing.
That's his title. That's his title at CDM. Not
exactly. Okay. So you had this additional things like DPW superintendent, engineer, junior engineer. It falls under here. Unfortunately, associate just happens to be really confusing with the member types that you have.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Okay. He has a couple of other things that you can view specifically in his profile. Contact preferences. He has the ability to set what types of emails he gets from you, and you can view what he's determined. Everybody's set at the same default. Message history.
So this whole section here is something he'll have access to pretty much to create his own profile or change it if he wants to.
Exactly. In his own member profile on the front end or member facing piece of the website, he'll have basically this exact page. A lot of these, in fact, I think all of these notifications have to do with the social community. Oh, they do. Social community emails. Hello. So these all have to do with social community pieces. There is something down here at the bottom where it'll show you if he's unsubscribed from your emails. Something that can happen from time to time is somebody may get an email on a specific event that they have no interest in. They're like, yeah, I'm never going to go to this event, a golf event maybe. They're like, I hate golf. I'm never going. So they may hit unsubscribe. There's always going to be a link at the bottom of your emails that says unsubscribe. They may hit unsubscribe thinking, I'm unsubscribing from all golf emails. What they're actually doing is unsubscribing from all of your emails. Even if they unsubscribe, though, they can never unsubscribe from form confirmations and renewal notifications. So even if they unsubscribe from emails, they will always get those renewal notifications. They can't unsubscribe from those.
Okay.
But what might happen is Ian may call you up and he may...
If he unsubscribes in, say, July, January rolls around again, you're going to send him a dues notice.
Exactly. He'll still get a dues notice, no matter what. But he may call you up and he may go, I haven't been getting emails from you guys. I used to get emails all the time about vendor stuff, and I'm a vendor, and I never see it. And you can go right into his profile, and you may see that he's unsubscribed, and you can resubscribe him if that happened. But that's where I would check, because that's usually what the issue ends up being, because he just thought he was unsubscribing from golf emails, whereas he was actually unsubscribing from everything. Make sense? Cool.
Yep.
Cool. All right, then we've got message history. Your members will have this on in their profile as well. In the message history, they can view every email they ever receive from you from member clicks. So I think this is cool. And you can see as well, it'll also show you in this area if they opened the email or not, or if the email bounced, or if they were unsubscribed, or whatever the case may be. E-listing committees or social community items. We're going to talk about those when we do our social community training, so I'm going to skip them for now. Submissions, your members can also view on their end, but you can also see on the back end exactly what forms they've submitted, whether it's their membership application, a form event registration, golf, vendor, whatever it may be. You'll be able to see those form submissions back here in their profile. Invoices, you'll be able to see every invoice ever created for the individual. So if he came to a golf event, it's going to show you his invoice for the golf event, whether it's paid or open.
So back to the submissions for a moment there. Let's say we send the the meeting for March. We send out the flyer that says there's a March meeting. How does he reply to that? He doesn't have to pay for it, but how does he reply that he's coming?
Sounds like we would just want to create a little RSVP form. So I do that a lot with like non-payment events, where it would just say like RSVP today. They'd click on it and it would say, I'm coming to this event, and they would check yes, and then they would confirm their name, their email, and then they would just hit submit.
Okay, I was just thinking, so you said the 4 templates, but that's for invoices. I have 2 events that we charge for, plus dues, but I have 4 events in March, April, October, and November. We don't charge. It's included in their membership price. So it's an invite. We ask people for a head count because we pay for their lunch. It's included, but I need to know they're coming. So that's kind of critical to have that piece set up, I guess, and how it works, that they can reply, but there's no payment.
Yep, we can definitely do that through our forms, and we'll set up at least one of those, like a little RSVP form, and we'll create one for every event. So if it's like a March luncheon, we'd call it March 2018 luncheon, and you would put it in the email or put it somewhere on the website. Click here to register that to let us know you're coming to our March luncheon. They'd click, and they would say, yes, I'm coming, and then they would submit it. And we have it so that a form confirmation email could go to the member and could also come to you if you wanted it to come directly to your email. And we could say it would be almost like a receipt for the member, but like a notification for you. We can data merge in their first and last name, their email address, and yes, I'm coming to this event.
Okay.
That'll solve your problem. I think that's exactly what you're looking for.
I think it's exactly what I'm looking for. Cool. I have an event on March 13th. It's about a month from now, I guess. If the dues are on target to go out for, say, the 21st, is that what we said?
I think so.
February 21. Will everything be in order to at least get it doesn't have to be perfect, but this form notice out for a March event?
Yeah, I definitely think that's doable. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you send me that form? Do you already have a form created where they'll RSVP through?
A form, like a paper form, like what it looks like, or a form? Yeah. All of my forms kind of look identical. The problem with that form is, and I don't know if you can accommodate it. Can you accommodate like a PDF so our meetings typically are other speakers, and we like to list who they are, because that's what gets people to either come or not come. And so it's an 8x10 sheet of paper. It's just usually a PDF attached to my GoDaddy email is how I've been doing it. And they've been printing it off, responding to the email, or scanning it back, telling me how many people are coming. That's how it's been working. But it lists out kind of like who's coming and what time they're coming so that people can plan. That's what I do. So is your form, is it just an email, or can we attach a PDF that looks the way people are used to seeing it? Or is there a form that's preset in your thing that we have to stick to? Like, how does that work?
I think the forms training is going to help you understand how this is going to work. It's kind of like our form takes the place of the PDF. Can you send me the PDF? I am going to have to run because now I'm running about 5 minutes late to my next call, and that's not your fault. No, you're totally fine. I want to go ahead and set up some additional time for us to talk because the 21st is like here very soon. Do you happen to have time? I want to go ahead and do our second database training. Do you happen to have time are you working on Monday?
I'm not, no.
Okay. Could you do, I've got one time open tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Could you do 12 o'clock tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or Monday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the 16th
Yes.
at noon. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I'm going to put you down. I'll send you credentials in just a little bit. So this is going to be like our database part 2 that we're going to get through. And I'm going to see if my designers can get that template up for us sooner than later. And then the 21st, wow, we are really, it's not a big deal. Okay, cool. We'll talk more about it tomorrow because I don't want to be any later to my call. So let's talk more about this tomorrow. Send me that PDF, please. Okay.
I will. Yep.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.